Kristina Leipold joined us from Berlin. She's one of the person managing the Light Art Space, which is a new art space that you saw some images of in Jakob and Liu's presentation earlier today. She's going to explain what it is. One thing that you guys might or might not know, it's inside the Berghain complex in Berlin, very famous, not only for art but also for parties. And the reason Kristina is here, I think she decided to come to join us, so that's a great testament to what's happening here. But also, when we knew she would be around, then we really wanted her to share her programs, because you can sit down, Kristina. Welcome. And because just like the Serpentine in London, I think Light Art Space is a space that has been at the forefront of what institutions can do with regards to world making and working with artists, creating worlds, working with game engines and working with spatialized sound. And that's a positioning that they've been very strong on. And you can start, I think, with these kind of institutions, you can start to see a constellation of institutions in the world preoccupied with this idea of worlding with digital media, of supporting people who have interesting views into collective organizations. Light Art Space also work with Black Sundown and Penny on some of our projects. So we start to see a cosmos, I guess, of people doing what we are trying also to advocate for here in Octobre, Numérique, Faire, Monde. So I'll let you, Kristina, present your activities. I'm going to stay with you on stage.
Thank you so much, Fabian, for inviting us to this wonderful event. It feels a little bit like coming home because there are so many familiar faces in the room. So it's a real honor and pleasure to be here. My name is Kristina Leipold. I'm the commercial director of LIS. Bettina, our director, was originally planning on coming to Arles as well, but traveling from Berlin is rather tricky at the moment, or for her traveling from Munich. So who is LIS? LIS is a rather young non-profit, private non-profit art foundation that brings together art, technology, and science. We are dedicated to commissioning and presenting new experiences and artworks in this very hybrid space. We are intentionally based in Berlin, but aim to reach worldwide. So this is a good place to be in to introduce us and our program as well. At the moment, LIS operates nomadically, which means that we do not have a permanent physical location. We have an office in Berlin where the team is located at. Instead, we seek rather unexpected and also iconic spaces, which we'll see in a little bit, that serve the unique needs of the artist we work with. This structure gives us a lot of flexibility, and because projects become site-specific, and this is something that by doing this, we definitely reach an even wider audience who might, in the first place, come for the location, and at a second view, then join LIS for an exhibition. So let me go to the first slide. I brought a few slides, and I will be quick. So future is a key word for us. The question, what an art institution of the future should look like and what role it should play, was at the center of our thinking and doing from the very beginning, from day one, basically. So we'd like to see ourselves as change agents, enablers, facilitators, incubators, bridge builders, translators. We definitely embrace collaboration. We want to be inclusive and are not afraid of taking risk. So I decided to bring some slides to present quickly or take you on a journey through our past program, some highlights, and pictures always speak louder than words, so I think this makes sense. So LIS had its first public appearance at the end of 2019 with a large-scale site-specific installation of machine learning pioneer Refik Anadol. His installation turned this vast space. I don't know who's been, I mean, there are people from Berlin here, but when you come to Berlin, it's definitely worth taking a look at this incredible building. So basically with his installation, he turned this space, a former East German power plant, Kraftwerk Berlin, into like a temporary AI human ecosystem in which visitors and the architecture became performers by providing constant input into the mind of a machine. So this inaugural exhibition was unexpected successful for us. It attracted incredibly diverse audiences as it spoke on to different people on very different levels. And I think this is what we like to do, bringing people who usually would not visit a museum or an art exhibition in touch with art. And it's just an experience, but if you are interested and curious, you can learn more, of course, about the artist, about the artwork, about the topic, and so on. So, Jakob, I already mentioned to Jakob before, it's wonderful to see you here. And honestly, I don't want to say much more about this exhibition since you just had like a full introduction from the artist himself. I just can say this was a hugely successful commission and collaboration for us, and we're grateful for the connection we made. And I love this image, basically. It sounds people chilling and enjoying. So last winter, we presented Robert Irwin's Light and Space, a newly commissioned site-conditioned installation at Kraftwerk Berlin again, his largest work in Europe. So why Robert Irwin? Irwin is a pioneer. Let me jump to the next slide. So that was the other side. So Irwin is a pioneer of the light and space movement that originated in the 1960s in California, which was in many ways radical and visionary, which is why it syncs perfectly with LIS mission and what we intend to do. We want to be inviting and cutting edge at the same time. So this exhibition was a testament to Irwin's ability to transform a space. It invited viewers to immerse themselves in his experiments with light and space and challenged all of our perceptions. I'd like to, or I picked this performance because it really stands for something we intend to do, which is building bridges between worlds, but also between disciplines. So we are always thinking about a correlating supporting program. So for example here, an art exhibition, bringing it together with like a dance performance. This is what you see here is acclaimed choreographer Sharon Ayal and her collaborator Guy Bihar, who specifically adapted and developed a series of dance performances for the iconic venue, Kraftwerk. Yeah, this is very strong. So now I'm quickly jumping to our current exhibition, Ian Cheng, Life After Bob, which is on view until November 6th at Halle am Berghain. So if anyone has a chance to travel to Berlin, please take the opportunity and visit the exhibition. So centering around Ian Cheng's first narrative film, The Chalice Study, which is a co-commission together with Luma Arles and the Shed in New York. The exhibition basically plunges into the complex relationship between technology human free will and desire. So the film, basically it presents an imagined future of AI-human interaction. It's 50 minutes long, very complex, challenging, a great experience, and I'm by far not have the possibility to describe what's really happening. So I can invite you to really come and view the film yourself. Let me jump to the next one. So this is basically the film in the cinema and a cinematic environment which we specifically created in Halle at Berghain. And what makes this exhibition special, it includes a specifically constructed physical environment, picking up elements of life after Bob. So the audience is not just watching a film, but is also being transported into the film's thematically chilling universe. So, and what you see here is also a first time for LIS, thanks to Diane, who's probably somewhere sitting up there, yes. And the wonderful TC Connect team. So the artist, of course, Web3, NFTs, it's a new technology. We want to and have to experiment with the technology. And many of the artists we are working with are likewise curious. So the artist specifically designed an NFT experience for the exhibition. It's called True Name. So when you enter the exhibition space, visitors are invited to submit a personal detail, which is like a name and a date of birth, which will generate a unique prompt to guide you then on a psychological journey through the life after Bob world. So it's closely connected. This experience is closely connected to the exhibition experience itself. So, and each NFT will then be available and can be collected for free from the exhibition store when you walk out again. So it's really a journey, literally. So we also provide instructions on how to set up a wallet, Kukai, I believe, via smartphone or social media. So all NFTs are minted by Tezos, where they can then be stored and traded with Tez. So I briefly want to mention this project because it is also very much what LIS stands for, which is experiments. So over a period of 2 years, British artist and quantum physicist Libby Heaney created a 360-degree immersive experience, taking quantum computing as both a medium and a subject matter. It was presented in Berlin at Schering Stiftung, also a very nice collaboration for us in spring of this year, and it's currently actually touring to other organizations and festivals. So maybe you have a chance to see this. Before I close, I think I have to mention that we, of course, also do have a digital program and initiatives which you all can check out on our website. Here is a commissioned first virtual artwork by renowned American artist Judy Chicago. It's an AR app, basically, that builds upon and in a way continues her celebrated series Atmospheres from the 60s. So this AR app is available for free in all app stores. And this was, I would say, one of our COVID projects in a way. Not being able to do physical exhibitions, we heavily concentrated and focused to bring our digital program forward. So to summarize, we see it as our mission to take art out of the ivory tower and to make it accessible to all. I think, yeah, with our inclusive and engaging program, we want to especially reach people who would usually not visit an art exhibition. I hope I was able to make you curious about what's to come in the future, and I warmly invite you to get in touch and visit us on your next trip to Berlin.
Thank you, Kristina. We do have time for a few questions, though, before the break. So if there is any, just raise your hand and we can bring you a microphone. But I'll get started with one. So I think it's also a reflection on the conversation earlier today. There is a lot of crossover between game design and gaming technologies. Perhaps we can call this real-time 3D, and the type of some of the exhibitions that you've helped produce. And so it's, to me, I find interesting that game design principles are applied to actual spaces. For now, institutional kind of walls. But I'm curious to see if there is a strategy or plans to bring this kind of virtualizations of worlds or virtual worlds also outside of the physical spaces that you operate in. Is that something you want to do in the future?
I think for us, I would almost want to say, oh, sorry, I can go to the last slide. But I think the artists come first, but we do, like, working at the intersection of art, science, and technology, we often, or we do work with artists who are not classical artists, but, developers or game engineers, such as Jacob, for example. So it's very, it comes very natural that there is a proposal and which turns into a commission, which then uses a game engine as a medium, as a tool, or even maybe a subject in the future.
Yes, thanks. And I have a complement to that question also, or maybe it's also a comment. I come from the gaming industry before I came into this cultural space. But what I find interesting here, and perhaps you started noticing that some of the names are the same. Such and such have worked together, have collaborated, have produced. So you could see from outside, and I can hear sometimes the comment, oh, well, sounds like a small knit community of people between themselves. And I just want to highlight also that I think what you guys are creating is to raise the production values of the artworks that you're creating to a point where it becomes on par with the culture of entertainment that we're so used to see around us, especially in gaming. Gaming is a very expensive medium. It takes many hundreds of thousands of euros and millions of euros to produce anything. And if you don't sometimes do this kind of effort of pulling resources, staking, as Penny would say, to create something that's on par with this kind of level, it's very hard to register. It's very hard to get noticed. And so I find very interesting that Line Art Space, The Shed, Luma, Serpentine have the opportunity to collaborate and create artworks that can grow bigger, be noticed by, we could say, gaming audiences, even if I don't think that means anything. But at least it's a level of production values that is very helpful. So it's just a comment, not really a question.
No, thank you. But I think what it really does is bringing a topic, such as a relevant topics. If it's AI or if it's, I think the former swamps and this, very generally speaking, sustainability challenges to an audience that. As I think I love this image so much I showed you, where people just hang out, basically, So it's a medium that maybe is familiar. I have to say, my gaming time is many years ago, so that was a completely different world. But we had so many excited, especially young people, staying for hours and hours and hours and coming back. Like the comments we received. Are incredible, and this among like an audience that I would think most probably would not naturally like to go to an exhibition all the time.
or at least a bit later when they can dance and in Bergen.
And it's a way to introduce them to art, you know? It's a very soft way. It's an experience.
Yes. I know there's a few people representing cultural institutions here, and I think that's something that echoes a lot of their preoccupations. Is there any question? Hands? Yes. Oman?
Yes.
It's all right. Yeah, it's working.
Yes. Just a question, because your programs are amazing, and the question is, can they be seen in other venues? As a commercial director, I can imagine you have maybe a role in selling your production in other venues all over the world, because the production costs must be very, very high. So, and apart from the production costs, it's very interesting that maybe the audiences may be higher and higher, as if the programs can be seen in other venues.
I mean, we are. Yeah, in general, I want to say yes. I think this is maybe something. This is something we are working on. I would rather like to speak about collaborations and collaborating with other venues instead of just selling an exhibition. I think this is, or touring is maybe a better word. For example, Libihini is touring at the moment, but not. It just happened basically because we were approached by some festivals and institutions who were interested in showing the work. So there's nothing financially involved at this point of time. But we are a small team. We're very young, a small team trying to build a sustainable art institution. So I think there's a lot of steps ahead of us, I want to say, at this point of time. But
is there, just to stay a little bit on that thing, is there an element of iteration? Like when a show that you've produced goes elsewhere, is it different? Is it a new version, or will it be the same?
I have to say there's, maybe it's a small question for Jacob as well, because, but at this point of time we don't, there's site-specific, even Libihini, a 360-degree work. It always, of course, depends on the site itself. I'm sure it needs to be adapted in some kind of way, but since we are not proactively touring, yeah.
Okay, because this is an idea, and this is a comment beyond LAS, but there is an artist's willingness to also consider, and we were talking about this morning with Jacob, to consider exhibitions as levels, in a sense, and I really like your word, Jacob, on leveling, because it's also a game design term. An exhibition being a level, and then you have level 1, and then after you go to the next institution or place, you can enable level 2 and so on. That's one way of looking at it. You can also say it's versioning, so you have version 1, version 2. And many artists are very interested in having their artworks alive. And part of the life of an artwork is that it has different ages and different stages across many years. And so that's a very interesting phenomenon. I think it's also one of the property of world making. If you want to create a world, you can't stay still. It's attached to a time, to a place and a time. And therefore, when it travels, it actually travels, not just as a replica. Sorry, this is maybe the conclusive word. But thank you very much, Kristina, for being with us. We are going to have a small break now. We're going to take back at 5, and so we can be with Kristina as well as the previous artists who were with us to ask any question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.